Here we go. Show me what hides behind your eyelids past King Cobra 40s and half-cooked hellos. Show me what you're thinking. Take my hand and puncture this cautious membrane. The suspense, our superficiality. Your beauty occasionally picks my bashful eyeballs from the ground, sheltering them between blonde streaks down golden necks along jutting clavicles are resting on smooth breasts.
I'm Tony Krupicka, and I guess what I'm most known for is ultramarathons recently.
Find themselves lingering on kneecaps, then fall back down to ground zero again. Too conscious to engage in a staring contest with desire, tickle, throat, nerves, perverse, stagger conversation.
It's really funny because I feel like I have this reputation of like just being kind of a vagrant. You know, like I haven't really lived any place this summer.
Voiceless southern trust, your thoughtful cadence, organic phrases, and hand-picked opinions. Stomp into casual cowboy bars with double-barrel Hancock voice box. You blow lyrical prose and superficial bar talk, leaving chest wounds and heart throbs. I hear beauty and desire still infects me, so I rip my...
I don't know why. What people think is so neat about me running a lot. Lots of people run a lot.
Turn to my taste buds, feeling my way past carpet floors, resting on armpits, and then finally sitting on some eyelids. A blink tickles. You could be the ugliest woman, but I trust my tactile sensations more than my visual contortions. My eyes stare at the ground, my ears detect.
And I've always just wondered, like, God, what does it take to run like 17 hours, and like, what's it like when you get past 50 miles?
Reality.
You saw your kingdom in your mind. Always undermined by those who denied the sun would ever shine. You saw your kingdom in your mind. Always undenied.
You know, I definitely identify as a runner, clearly, but I'd like to think that there are other parts of my personality that are equally as interesting. So I grew up in Niobrara, Nebraska, which is this small town in northeast Nebraska, on a farm. And I started running in the 5th grade, I guess. I was 11 years old. Very quickly became like a source of identity. Really, like the way I grew up in a rural setting, I was instilled with like a really deep appreciation for the natural landscape and the land, and that's really like the biggest effect that my upbringing has had on my running, is like, because that's what my running is me like connecting with the land.
Hail to the thief, they cry from the street, and you've taken control.
A big reason why I run is sort of the ability it allows me to kind of tap into this sort of like more primitive, primal mode of existence that it seems like modern man has kind of been divorced from over the last 200 years. That's something that I've found is just essential for me to experience on a daily basis in order to like fully experience and appreciate my daily life. I think people have this conception of me being like anti-technology and that sort of thing, but it's really not the case. It's just that I feel like there's some technologies, and the car is like, you know, automobile is one of those that are just wildly inappropriate for their like what they're used for.
It feels sweet.
So I'm a big believer in appropriate technology, in that think about the amount of energy you're consuming to achieve a certain task and wonder if it's truly worth it. I mean, an analogy that I use a lot is like using a car for like daily sort of mundane tasks is kind of like using a chainsaw to slice butter, you know? It doesn't need to be done.
Well, no better than the carousel machine.
But the opposite of that is, driving is really cool because it's incredibly mobile without you burning any of your like energy reserves. When you're running like 4 or 5 hours a day, every day, you're freaking tired. Like, and like it's a daunting task to like get on a bicycle and go to the grocery store.
Back to back.
I mean, there's some definite pluses to a more simple lifestyle where you're just kind of, minimizing your needs and reducing distractions because, it ends up being a lot more fulfilling, I think. It frustrates me that there's this entire industry kind of making like the outdoor mountain lifestyle this sort of iconic, like cool thing to be doing, and really it's all about just like selling product. I guess I feel like I'm not compromising my values really by representing a corporation when I'm racing or whatever, because you need to wear shoes, and I haven't quite figured out how to build my own yet, but so you're always going to be like being like a billboard for some company. I'm really not doing that much in terms of representation, so I might be wearing their shoes and have their logo on my t-shirt, but really that's not me, like if you think I'm like that La Sportiva guy, then you've got me all wrong. So I ended up running my first marathon completely of my own accord, like with no outside pressure, when I was 12. So I was getting all my influence basically from like 1970s running literature that is espousing 100-mile weeks, 100-plus mile weeks, and 20-mile long runs and stuff, and I didn't know any better at age 12, 13 to not be doing that stuff. From there, I went through high school running pretty terribly because I was like going through a growth spurt and trying to run a whole bunch at the same time. And in college, the same sort of thing, because I think I just not suited to the traditional racing distances of like 5K, 10K so much as marathon and further.
All the creeks and puddles ended up dead in streams. Still he waits beneath the cypress tree, just like in her dreams.
There are like certain arenas of running that there's pretty like set ways to train, but I feel like the 100-mile distance, especially on trails, is a sport in its infancy. It's only been around, 30 years maybe? So I feel like you don't have the confines of like science determining, what you should and shouldn't be doing on a daily basis to prepare for one of these events.
She gets dirty looks from red dirt girls trying to make it pay, but she don't need that kind of ride.
In your 100-mile race, you're running all day. So during training, I try to recreate that over a series of days, weeks, months of like accumulative fatigue of running a lot and then getting used to like feeling like crap all the time.
She never burned any bridges, they'll wash out along the way.
So what it comes down to is just a lot of like sheer mileage. I try and average around like 4 hours a day.
To Northern California, down beside the ocean blue. There's a place she's headed for.
I try and do like one long run each day of like 3 hours or more even, and then a little shorter run at night, just to kind of shake out and get your body used to running all times of day. And usually that run has some barefoot in it, and I like doing that.
And she went all the way to California.
But then on the weekends, doing just one run, because that run usually ends up taking all day, trying to get at least 10 hours, more like 12 hours probably when I'm training really hard over the 2 days. You need to be really tired a lot of the time. So in the past, I've kind of said you need to be like semi-overtrained, which obviously isn't sustainable, but I feel like if you're like really like on the verge of breakdown and then you taper, you're gonna be able to do a lot better in a race. So then the spring of my 4th year of college, my senior year, just started logging like 200 miles a week, like irrationally, and kept that up for like 4 months until I got hurt. When I can't run, I lose like the part of my life each day that like really like makes other actions, just like mundane daily actions, doable and like worthwhile.
Now could I get an exorcist? You used to be so sweet.
It's just kind of like compounding. Like you feel worthless because you are worthless, and then you feel worthless because you're worthless, and then you're even more worthless. That sort of thing.
To make you blush, and we could take our time. But there was nothing in the bottle.
I mean, my entire world just like shatters. I mean, I just become like intensely depressed.
I only see you in mirrors. Looking back at me.
You don't need to be as obsessive as me, and you shouldn't be as obsessive as me about running and running as much as I do. And I understand there's probably some sort of like chemical endorphin type thing going on, but beyond that, it's just, it's that one thing in my life that I'm really passionate about and really need to like feel grounded and, I don't know, human. And when you don't have that, it's just
in the wind, but from a certain direction. When that southerly blows, boy, you better get protection.
I'm tired and we are running. We're going to run from Donner Pass to back to Squaw Valley on the Pacific Crest Trail, I guess. And I don't know why we're starting so early. Should be a nice sunrise from up on the crest, which is pretty sweet.
I've never consciously been like, I want people to look at me and be like, oh, he's that runner, blah, 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 that sort of thing. But that's the way it is, and it's something, answers my other questions that I definitely is a huge part of my life and is like maybe like the dominant part of my life.
All those times I saw it in your eyes and failing to be the one to decide. Words fail in self-deprecation.
So while I'm not uncomfortable with being identified or, being defined by my running, it's something that I clearly have kind of a problem with.
Will you crown the place with the sun shining on the morning face? Will you crown the place with the sun shining on the morning face?
When somebody, that's all someone like sees me for, you want to be like recognized for something other than that, I guess, just because, it just feels a little weird and like out of whack to be completely defined by one thing, and because it's just simply not a comprehensive view.
Black muddy river, way up her banks, it's the memory of the flood.
you're constantly thinking about other things all the time too. And if all anyone wants to talk about is like you're running, then it gets kind of old.
I see the look on
You know, I like movies and books and music, you know, and like, and you know, talking about politics and stuff, and not just like some machine out running on the trails every day.
confess. Should've had it out like your late screaming neighbors for everything you did to put out my fire.
I do spend my time doing other things and have other interests, and a lot of that has been reflected sort of in my academic pursuits. I ended up in 4 years double majoring in philosophy and physics, and also minoring in mathematics. So I'm your typical non-committal, not sure what to do with my life, 20-something. That's like easily the most impeccably maintained like trail in the Springs. It's seriously like a handicap trail. You could like have a wheelchair on that.
No, I don't want to put on shoes. My feet hurt. One of those stupid little. If I had socks right now, I'd probably wear them, but I don't. It'll be all right.
Yeah. So typically, on any pair of running shoes I get, I don't just say, "Oh, this is the running shoe and this is the way it is." I'm like, "What can I do to this to like make it work for me better?" On a lot of my shoes, I end up having to like slice off parts of the heel in order to make the height between the forefoot and the rear foot the same. And the reason that does is it frees up your ankle joint to act as a cushion instead of, I don't know, your fat pad on your heel, I guess. And really it's just trying to emulate the, what I consider to be like the correct way or like most natural way of running, which is barefoot. And if I were to like run down this alleyway, this asphalt alleyway barefoot and land on my heels, I would like, it would hurt, like crack my heel bone or something. But here instead, you land more midfoot to forefoot, and then your ankle joint, your calf muscles, and your Achilles tendon are allowed to take most of the shock. Yeah, so if you have a big wedge of foam underneath your heel at that point, it's almost impossible to land on your forefoot and then land on your heel because this gets in the way and you land on your heel first. And then also, I feel like when you're on more technical trails, if you're on your forefeet more, you're just a lot lighter on your feet. And then there's kind of the ancillary benefit of it reducing the weight of the shoe. Which, over 100 miles, you just end up lifting that many ounces, pounds, less over the course of the race, so, less energy. It's really funny when you get to the end of a run, even if you're wearing like a pair of like lightweight racing flats or something, you take off your shoes, like it's just like you're all of a sudden starting the run all over again. Like it's just, no matter how crappy I felt at the end of the run before, whenever I take my shoes off and go barefoot, and I instantly like feel, obviously not like, oh, I'm starting over again, but like a lot better. So it's funny because I've always thought about, God, I'd love to like be able to in a 100-mile race around like mile 60 or 70, just like take the shoes off and like go barefoot. But that's not possible if you're on. Yeah, I feel like the Leadville 100 is really my first ultra more than anything. I mean, it's a big race. It's the second biggest 100 in the United States after Western States. And it's just kind of this iconic race. And for me to like brashly, I guess, in most people's minds, take the lead at like 14, 15 miles and then run the first half only 10 minutes slower than Matt Carpenter's course record pace, which is considered like an unbreakable course record. Yeah, people were kind of taken aback. don't know, any culture has its sort of like unspoken rules and traditions, and in retrospect, I guess I was breaking a lot of those. So Kyle Skaggs is a young guy. I mean, he's just kind of perfect representation of sort of the new wave of ultra runners who are like breaking course records and sort of taking the sport to a new level, I think, by not being held back by present standards, that sort of thing.
Need a level.
The top talent at this certain discipline in the world hasn't been cultivated. So yeah, it's just a lot of like what I feel is common sense stuff, and I feel like a lot of people kind of freight their running with a lot of unnecessary gadgetry and complexity, when if you just keep it simple, it oftentimes ends up working out better. There's some guys who like really take it seriously now, and as a result, the quality of performance is going to go up. And you know, you could ask yourself, is this a sport worth taking seriously? That sort of thing. When there's no money involved in it, it's like, I mean, yeah, if it's worth it to you, it's worth it, I guess. The guys who are currently at the top right now, like Scott Jurek, Hal Corner, I mean, these guys are just in their early 30s, you know, Ian Torrance. So when they started, they were like the same age I am now, like mid-20s, early 20s or whatever. So, I mean, I could see a whole new crop of youngsters like sort of being inspired, and a lot of course records could really fall by a lot, probably. When I was working at Colorado College this past year, it was definitely more difficult to train as hard as I wanted to. Yeah, so during the school year I was working from 9 to 5, and that meant like getting up at like 5 in the morning to go for a 3-hour run, and then you know, running again right after work. So in the wintertime, both of those runs were typically in the dark. It's cold. Trying to keep a secret from you. So yeah, your training definitely is compromised when you have to work. The pressure you feel under is gotta... It's a constant struggle of like deciding what your priorities are between, you know, relationships, things for your mind, you know, like your work or academic work, and then like, you know, the running. I definitely want to, on a regular basis in my life, have a period of time each year, I think, where running's all I do, just because it's something I enjoy, like, intensely, and I think, you know, a person should, like, cultivate their passions. But in general, if I can be, like, as objective as possible, I don't think it's good to have something like that dominate your life constantly. And that's the thing, I'm in this for the long haul. I want to run my entire life, so yeah, I can't constantly be putting in like 35-hour weeks running, But I think those weeks are, well, maybe not necessary for everyone. They give me a lot of confidence going into a big race. So freaking hard today. I was like slower on every mile above the tree line today. Probably went a little too hard up today, friend. I believe that there's a lot to be said for putting yourself in a situation where everything's kind of stripped down to the raw essentials of like food and water, and something as simple as keeping moving forward. And racing provides a perfect arena for that. At least ultra racing does.
And you sail high above your golden sun, and you sail that nothing here is worth taking away.
With racing, everything else is canceled out, and all you're thinking about is sort of survival in a very basic sense. Preparation is absolutely the most difficult. It's like, geez, that race itself, like the actual act of running for like 16 hours straight or whatever, 100 miles, that seems really tough. But no, it's all about like the mundane consistency of like putting in 4 or 5 hour days every single day. I think everyone likes to identify with a larger group of people, and racing provides that sort of communal like experience where you get all these ultra runners in one spot, and it's fun to hang out and talk with them.
And you said that I was never worth the wait, Mary Jane.
The aspect of running with someone else in ultra running is a huge part of it though too. And like, one run I did with Kyle this summer, we did a 6-hour run on the Leadville course, and it was like the easiest 6-hour run of my life, It's just so much easier mentally to go on a 6-hour run with someone else than to like get up on a, Sunday morning like, I'm gonna go be by myself for 6 hours right now, like.
With no direction at all. Now some are lost and some are found, but to forgive is most profound. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
For me, racing isn't the primary reason for why I run. And if the only reason you're out there doing it is to, do well in this race, for me, that's not going to get me to get out there and do it. I have to really enjoy it.
Caroline, you're tangling me inside your pines.
But for me, it's definitely like, it's really nice to like, win a race and have people think you're a neat guy, and it's such a huge ego boost. And I don't know, I feel like if there are people out there who like deny that, they have to be lying to themselves to some extent.
I'll leave you inside of my way. Here I stand and here I fall. The stone cold roses up against the wall. Now I have loved and I have found. I'm happier now you're not around.
I'd gone from basically not running at all to doing 200 miles a week for over a month, doing a 100-mile race, and then maybe not recovering quite enough after the 100-mile race before really jumping back into real training. When you are that fit, you start feeling invincible, and when you feel like the most indestructible is probably when you're the most vulnerable, because to be that fit, you have to be incredibly close to becoming injured. So any misstep ends up taking you over the edge, and that it's clearly what happened. So yeah, I probably got a stress fracture in my foot, and it's been 9 weeks today. So during those times, it's all about just knowing that this is just the way it is, and it's going to take a couple weeks here to get back into it, and pretty soon things will be nice and easy and flowing again. So it's all about telling yourself things will get better, I guess.
Always undenied by those who deny your sun would ever shine.
She walks on 2 feet with seismic hoops. The sun will fall from the sky tonight, fragmenting into stars to light. The patches of white that combine with the dark shades of brown, as if we found the north and south wrapping around the earth and making love on top of the 2 poles. The meridian knows about the equator's crack addiction. They swap volcanic ash during crack and toll when the wind blew even harder.
So the hardest part is when it starts becoming a grind and starts becoming, the miles start piling up and you're tired, and, you forgot to bring a gel, is reminding myself that this isn't about like some end goal that I'm working towards, but like enjoying the process and enjoying the fact that I'm privileged enough to be out here in the mountains and that sort of thing.
Confused under a chaos of convertible bangs, she kisses the 4 seasons. You can taste the drop in temperature as autumn strangles summer, and oak trees mourn the loss of their mothers. Then winter plasters peppermint ellipses. 2 undulating soldiers dip the frostbitten skin, leaving tundra taste behind. Suddenly springtime arrives, and legs fly open like screen doors to patios as petals clog your throat. You choke on thawed pollen residue, and then summer finally hits you. Grab backbone ribs under armpits and lift a little to solidify the weight in the space you have created. And
if I can get a few people to realize that there's a different way of thinking about things, both in running and just life in general, the way that they engage the world, then yeah, I'll be happy with that.
Your kingdom in your mind, always undermined by those who deny the sun would ever shine.
And like an artist's signature, you acknowledge the end. Open your eyes, you're content with the weather patterns that lay ahead.
I was an Eversport finalist in 2 events. Wow. Wow, this is gonna blow your mind, dude. Whoa!
Take your hands off.
Throw it into conversation.
Why doesn't he like cheddar? Is he not American?
I am gonna have a
Yellow
snack.
cheese. He only
Did
likes
you have
sweet.
lettuce and tomatoes?
What about white cheddar?
Is it just like the meat?
Well, that's the natural form of cheddar.
Dude, you should have seen me coming off Hope Pass. Above tree line, I fell off the mountain. I grabbed onto this little shrub and tore it off. I was just rolling down the mountain.
Awesome.
Right in front of
It was
the
in
llamas.
front of the aid station and then 10 people climbing up.
You could hear the aid station, everybody's like, whoa, It's but I don't know, it's so much adrenaline, I didn't even feel anything. Man.
Yeah.
Just rolled right out of it.
Yeah, that's
Immediately back
the way to do it.
Granary in Jackson Hole, and we get there, and there's 8 Porsches in a row in the parking lot, just lined up, and we get there, and I had the elk entree, and it was $40.
Yeah, dude.
Just the elk. I mean, for 12 people, we spent $1,600. We were just buying bottles of wine and shit. I had 2 desserts that were $12 a piece. Is that it?
I think so. Do you have anything else that you want to say to the peoples?
The peoples. You know, keep it real. Oh, no, not really. I've said enough.